Welcome. What happens when a quilter, embroidery lover, and slow stitcher attempts to make a simple birthday card? Hi, I'm Jean with Captain Stitches. Let's dive right in while I share with you some of the work and working on this birthday card, while I share some tips and techniques along the way that I am doing in the process. And what exactly I mean by can't make a simple birthday card. So, welcome everyone. I am going to switch to the overhead camera so that you will be able to see what I am actually working on and what I am doing while I work on it. So, let's do that right now, and then we will get on with some stitching. Bear with me as I find it on here. Get the right one. You think just hit the wrong button. Bear with me a minute. There we go. Hopefully I didn't mess up the sound because I clicked the audio button instead of the video button. But we shall find out. Okay, so here is how it all started out with this simple, right here, the white square on the middle, was going to be just a simple birthday card. And of course, started out with the drawing that could have just been put on cardstock and made a simple birthday card. But no, since I love embroidery, I decided that I might as well make it using the crayon color tinting technique and then embroider it, which I still was just going to put it on simple cardstock after that and make a card. But as I was working on all the embroidery on here, I decided, going to someone who is a new stitcher, sewer, and I might as well make a needle book out of it instead. So we went from simple to at least a 2-day process of making this. And I'm not finished with it, so decided I would share with you some of my process in making that. But you can see, first of all, that I did do the crayon color tinting technique on the design that I drew on here. And then I did embroidery on all of that, added the happy birthday down here, and I've attached it to the cover for now, just with the 4 buttons on the corners. There's going to be some more stitching on that as I go along, but we're not working on that portion right now. But then when you open it up, we have the things laid out on here that I will be stitching. Some of the stitching is done. I'm going to lay it down here where I can play with it a little, but this will be the actual part that flips up that you put your needles and pins and that type of stuff in. So, and it has this beautiful hand painted wooden butterfly button on that was a gift and an order from Intrepid Thread. So added that on there, and it has beautiful double rickrack trim on here with some glitter on it that I will be stitching down. And then we just added these 3 little patches of fabric that I'll be doing some stitching on as well. We have all these cute, colorful floral buttons. That this right here, I remove that pin, this will be a double pocket. It's got the big pocket that will be on the back side here, and then this front one is also a pocket. So that's going to be a double pocket. Make sure that I'm only sticking my pin through that one layer there, and the rest of it. But added a little daisy trim on that, and then we've got the 3 vintage white buttons added to that. And so that it looks like a bouquet coming out of this pocket here, I will be adding stems to all the flowers on there and doing the embroidery. That that is the inside of the needle book. And then, of course, we have a back to it as well. And if I put that closer, you will see that there is quite a bit of stitching done on that portion already. That's the part that I've been working on. But have this beautiful striped fabric that matched the colors and everything on the front of the book, and put a diagonal piece of also colorful fabric that matched there. And I've just done some cantha stitching on the diamond, added a little bit of interest on the middle of it with some French knots. And then the stitching on all the stripes, for that way, so you can see a little bit, on all the stripes on that fabric is done in a small chain stitch using the colors that the stripes actually were, and using those as a pattern to follow. And then we have, if you can get that, you can see this is a lace with some pearls going through that. That was actually a gift from another stitcher, Sherry Burton, for those of you that may know and follow her. And then I have this yellow fabric down here. It had cherries on it. And there's cherries going around the ice cream cone here, so sticking with the theme there. And that needs to be stitched down yet. So let's get to some of the stitching on here, which I need to decide what part, and this isn't together yet. There's batting that's in between each layer when you're doing slow stitching. So it gives it some extra oomph and stability and dimension to your book. But I'm going to lay this one off to the side over here. You can't see the cover part, and I'm going to work on the inside for right now. Because I think what I'm going to do is I want to try and get as much attached down that's not flopping around. So I am going to work a blanket stitch around this pocket so that it will be attached to the back. And I'm going to use a matching turquoise Valdani thread. Size 12 is what I'm using. So we'll go ahead and get the needle threaded. If you hear some squeaking in the background, I don't know if you can hear it or not. It is Whip playing with one of his, decided to be a little active while I'm doing the recording. Sorry. He resides out here with me when I'm stitching, so he decided to play, I guess. But let me see. So I'm going to decide where I best want to start on this. If I start in this upper corner, I'll be able to work all the way around well, I might have to stop and do some more threading, but that will take me on a continuous stitch going all the way around there. And I am going to work through the batting. That's what's going to attach it to that and this layer all at the same time. So we are going to start with our thread up in this corner. Let me see if I can bring the camera in a little closer. I don't want to get too close because then I won't be able to stay in camera. So oops. We're going to start in that upper corner. And I am going to do a diagonal stitch in that corner first. Make that a little smaller than I was going there. But on the blanket stitch, you always make sure that you keep that thread behind your needle as you're stitching. And we'll probably get caught on some of these buttons as we go along, but I did attach those first. So we've got our first one in there. And I'm trying to make these approximately 1/4 inch apart and 1/4 inch long. Don't have to be exact, but that's kind of the goal I'm going for. We're just going to go all along here and stitch all the way around there. I know it's been a little while since I've been able to do a video, so welcome everyone that is watching this premiere this evening. Thank you for joining me. It's great that I was able to find some time decide that, okay, while I was working on this, go ahead and do a video for those of you that also enjoy embroidery and slow stitching, so that I can share some of the work with you while I work on it. And how you can see that when you are someone that like me loves multiple types of stitching, it's hard to keep things simple because that's just not the way our mind works. Now, I don't want to go all the way to the other side of this flower. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a short, not all the way down, but I want that part of this attached. So I'm just going to go part way down on this other stitch so that is attached, and then go ahead and go back down for the depth of my stitch past that flower on that trim. Red caught on the corner there. There we go. Okay. I'm just keeping my fingers on the back here, making sure that I keep it taut on the back as I do this blanket stitch all the way around. Maybe we'll try and see if I can't zoom in just a little bit more. We'll see what happens. Whether it gets, hopefully I can stay in the camera view. A little tricky to keep an eye on the camera and the stitching at the same time. Every once in a while, I might slip out of camera view, but I will try. I will try very hard not to do that. I enjoy doing a blanket stitch. Some people call it buttonhole. Also, it's the same stitch, but it makes a nice edging and attach the fabric down at the same time. And it's not a difficult stitch to do. I'm coming to that corner, and that would be too big a stitch to go there, so I'm going to go part way here. There's there. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do that. I'm going to let my thread drop here. You can see that I'm just letting it drop so that it untangles. Had a little bit of a twist to it. So now that corner, I want to do a diagonal. I'm going to come up and I'm going to get just a little bite of the fabric on the top there, so that the stitch stays in place. It doesn't go past that corner when I do that. You can see how that catches it, so it stays where you put it when you turn that corner. Got a little thread from something else caught in there. Let me get that out of there. Okay, so now on this outer edge, I am going to go so it is on the outer edge, and later I will be doing connecting the two pages of the book together there, and I will just work right over those same stitches again when I get to that part. I could have skipped over it, but this way I will be sure that this is attached and isn't going to come undone. And we're not going to make it all the way around with this thread. So when I have to change colors, you've seen how I'm doing this. I'll probably go on to a different section of the needle book so I can share. I get too short that I can't do a knot on the back, so I'm going to go under my stitch here, taking a bite of the batting with it. Put a little knot. Just trim that. Okay, we'll go back to that later, but you can see what the stitching. Oops. For the light to adjust there. It's not going to, but I think you can see the stitching, the blanket stitch there. That's holding it through to the batting and to the fabric at the same time. So now we'll go ahead and we'll do a couple of these stems here. I have to sew all those buttons down too, but I don't think we need to show how that's done. Oh no, how to sew a button down. Okay, bear with me as I thread my needle here. Quilter's knot, hanging it across the needle, and I'm wrapping it twice. Just hold it. Can't see this end here. Okay, going the wrong direction. There we are. But we just go all the way to the end of it. Okay, so I am going to do a stem stitch. And when you do a stem stitch, it depends on whether you go with your thread under your needle or over your needle, by which way the curve, whatever it is that you are stitching, is going. And this, we want to stay with the curve going that way, so we are going to keep the thread over the top of the needle as I do that. I'm right-handed, so I have to work left to right. So I'm going to start here by the button. I'm going to get to where I can hold this better. So I'm going to keep my thread on the top, take a little stitch there, back on it to start. Just going to stitch along my 9 here that I drew for my stem. So it's football, college football today. And of course, I'm a big Ohio State fan. Their game starts at 3:30. I'll probably miss the beginning of it, but hopefully I should be done with this video. It is pre-recorded, and we'll be scheduling it as a premiere for this evening. But hopefully I'll be able to watch the majority of the Ohio State game. But you can see how it makes, that stitch makes a very nice outline. outline stitch and stem stitch is very, very much the same. Some just use it interchangeably, but an outline stitch is usually always done with the thread on top. Stem stitch is normally done with the thread on the bottom, but you do kind of need to make it follow the curve, so that is why you kind of switch it back and forth when you're doing a stem stitch. Oops, just had my button fall off. Put that back on there eventually. Okay. And I see that I have this little stem going up there. So while I'm here, I'm going to turn that. I'm going to do that little section and then come back down to here. And it's got the opposite curve. So I'm just going to go over this stem on this one, but I have to keep the thread below my needle now on this because the curve is going the other direction. Instead of having to stop the thread and come back up to that one, I'm going to stitch it while we're there. Come from behind and just continue where I left off working on the other part of the stem. I'll end up losing more of them. These buttons right now just have a little dab of glue on them, holding them in place. So I knew where I wanted the placement of, and they were just tacked down with a little drop of glue until I can sew them on. And that's not stitched down there yet, so I'm going to take a stitch to make sure that pocket flap there covers that. I'm going to end that back there. Yep, no. Something out there. Apologies if you can hear him barking. That is how I will be doing all of the stems for the flowers. I think, let me see what I want to do. Not the back. Okay, so I don't have the trim on that sewn on yet, so I guess, oops, over here looking at this little rickrack trim is not attached on there yet, so we'll go ahead and do that quick. This thread up there by that. I'm going to use the pink thread to do that. I'll show you very quickly how I attach that. We're having to de-thread our needle. I could have more than one needle here so I could keep them threaded, but that's okay. You can long hand. We can't keep that in the camera and show while I do that. Sorry. I tried. Okay. So got a line on there so I can kind of keep control. It's going to hang over just a little bit, but I'm going to try and get my stitching right in the middle of this back. I'm going to get that pin out of my way, and I'm just going to do a running stitch through the middle of this. And it is going to go all the way around through. Keep that in mind. It's going to show on your batting when you open your needle book. So we want to try and keep those back stitches as neat as we can on there as well. And because it's thick, just kind of doing one stitch at a time. Try to do more than that, it would be hard to get through there. When you're doing slow stitching on a needle book like this, there is no plan. There is no pattern. You just pull some things from your stash of fabrics and your stash of trims and laces and buttons and other things, and you just kind of come up with it as you go. And the same goes for how you decide to do the stitching on it. That's why it's very therapeutic and meditative, relaxing to do this type of work. It's not not stressful because you're just doing whatever you feel like doing as you're going along. And you can change your mind as you're going along as well. You decide you don't like something, it's like you don't have to stick with it because there is no pattern. I decided no, I don't like that trim. All of a sudden I could have changed it to something else or not had a trim at all on there. A lot of times when I'm doing a needle book where the needles go, I'll have a little thing going across it that actually says needles, something on there. Making sure I'm keeping that straight on the line I have there. Keeping it as straight as I can. But yeah, just doing a basic running stitch on this part. Have a quiet space. And I don't mind that those ends are sticking over just a little bit. It's okay. And because this is going to show through instead of a knot there, I'm going to take a couple back stitches instead of doing a knot there. So get in place. And with it. Through that same stitching there. To get the needle through. I'm going to end with that on the back to bury my thread between the fabric and the batting so I can trim it off close and it's not going to show. You can see I went between underneath that batting but not through the fabric on the top so that thread's not going to show to be able to cut that thread off. So when we open it up, we don't see a thread hanging there. And you just barely see those little stitches going through there. we know that that batting's not going to come off. Okay. And let me see. Since we have the pink thread on here right now, I'm going to go ahead, switch back over here, and I'm going to sew those two pink buttons on quick. Know that they're not going to fall off. Finding the hole on the buttonhole seems to sometimes take forever. And so, if you are having a problem with that, just take a pin, stick it through the hole, and so you can kind of come up where you put that pin, and that'll help you find the hole and get started. So there's a tip if you have a problem with that. Instead of playing with it, just stick a pin through from the top down. And then you can look back and see where you put your needle the first time. Sometimes it still gets a little tricky, not wanting to quite come through there. There we go. These are not buttons that are going to be used, so we don't have to worry about going over it too many times. And I'm using, Valdani Pearl cotton instead of thread, so the button's coming in the way of coming up. There we go. Oops. And that's not going to show because that's going to be between the layers. So see if we can get the hole on this little button. Okay. Go all around. Every place but where the hole of the button is. There we go. Got it. And we forgot to put a knot in our thread. Well, try to find the hole on that button again. Hate when I do that. Go through and like, okay, no, we came all the way through because we didn't get the knot on the end of our thread. Okay, just sewing this button on real quick. We will go on to another section. Down. With my thumb this time so I don't undo my knot. There we go. Okay. Those two buttons are attached. Now we're going to go back over to this little patch here. Since we still have pink pearl cotton on our needle. And I am going to take my little ruler here because I like to be a little consistent about the stitching. Flip that up. And I am going to actually, with disappearing ink, mark a 1/4 inch in on here so my stitching is even. Come up here and mark it on this side as well. Got a pinked edge, so it's just a little difficult to figure the exact edge on there, but that's okay. And we're going to mark that all the way around. And this is an air erasable pen, so it will just disappear. You won't see it at all. Sometimes if the humidity is high, part of that may disappear before you get your stitching done. So you never want to stitch with, outline with a disappearing pen too far ahead of what you're going to be stitching. I'm going to start underneath here, yellow one in the corner. Putting a pin in there, I'll probably catch on the pin, but I'm gonna pin that down out of my way. So I'm just going to do on this a simple running stitch to look kind of like cantha stitching. Just be going a continuous round until I get to the middle on this. Just going to start by going, should have a thimble on. But you can see how, it's called slow stitching, but parts of it can, aren't necessarily slow. But it's just really, really fun to do because it's, mindless thinking while you're doing it. You just sit here and clear your mind and just enjoy the stitching process. Not worrying about what you're going to do next. When you get done with part of it, just look at the next and decide what it is you want to do. That's like all the fabrics and everything that were on here. I had a stack of fabrics, kind of the colors that I thought that I wanted to use, but I just kept pulling things and deciding what I was going to do and what I was going to add as I went along. Some ideas I had, I started with, didn't like, changed my mind. And that's the fun and the joy of embroidery and slow stitching. You can be totally creative with it and just do whatever it is you feel like at the moment and end up like this. This is basically done the same way. This needle book that I think I showed you in the previous video. But yeah, it's basically done the same way. It's just a little bit smaller. But you can see that just added patches of fabric along the way with stitching. This one here has a little handmade sticker with the lace underneath it. And then see, this is where the little needle book is on this one, and it does say needles on that. You open it up and you have needles on this part. I've got some pins on that part. We just have the yo-yos with antique vintage buttons as embellishment, and a little needle minder down here, and to be pink so it matched the fabric. We have a pocket here, of course, and we have the scissors stays in because the needle minder is hooked on there. It keeps that needle, the scissors in there because they attach to that needle minder so they don't fall out. And then we have this beautiful fabric back here. We just added some seed stitching and there were teeny tiny little flowers on there. So we did French knots on that. And this is a stem stitch done around the rows on there and some straight stitching to embellish that, and a chain stitch going all the way around to attach that down. And you can see this pocket is also done with the blanket stitch, and then it's blanket stitched all the way around the cover and the inside. That's what attaches our book and stitched down the center where it folds. And that's how this one will end up when I'm done with it. It's just a little larger than this one. But that's basically, you know, what I'm doing. And you just, yeah, you can do all sorts of different ideas, different things, fabrics, laces, everything gives its own little personality when you're done. Back stitch there, all the way around. Make sure that stays there. And now I'm going to come to what appears to be about a 1/4 inch. And I'm just going to go around that again. And that will hold the fabric patch down, and it will also give it a decorative appearance. That's not quite a 1/4 inch, and it doesn't matter. Getting a little hole in my finger because I didn't grab my thimble. It's not close by at the moment. It's okay. So that is how I am doing this one, and I'll go around like this until I get to the middle. I'm not going to have enough thread to do that. Turn the corner here. And then we'll probably do the same on the green patch. The yellow one, I will probably do something different, the one that's in the middle, just so that they don't all look the same. Which I think I have a little button. I'll show you what just popped in my head to do on that one. We'll go ahead and take the thread off here. Because while I'm thinking of it, I'll show you what just popped in my mind to do on this. I was going to have the button just right in the middle of that patch. I think I'm going to put it up a little higher. And we'll go ahead and sew that on real quickly. I'm going to use the turquoise to do that. And we're going to make that into a little flower on that center one instead. So we have something a little different going on instead of all three of those patches embroidered down the same way. I think I got that about where it should work out nicely. Throw our button on first. Just lost a pin there I need to pick up before I lose that. Okay. Throwing the button down. Take the thread while I'm doing it. And hold it. Bring my knot on the back here. Bring it off. I'm not going to knot that because I won't be using that color again. Next, have it away. Needle there. And we are going to get one of micron pins that's will stay on. I don't want to use disappearing, but I'm going to make a little flower out of this. So I'm just going to come down with where I want my stem to be. I'm just going to draw that on there. And we want a couple, can't talk, leaves coming out of the bottom. So we just draw that on there. Sorry. Over to this side. Make a leaf on that side as well. And I'm debating. I think we'll just leave it like that for now, and after I've done that, I will decide whether I want to do something to make it look like it's got some petals going on that. And that's permanent. We don't have to worry about that disappearing. So we will do that with the green stem stitch. And then we might put a little vein in our leaves here. So we'll draw that in. Just so they're not so plain. But that's what we'll do with that one. This one, those of you that know me, if there are dots on something, I will do French knots on every single one of those dots on that fabric. So that is how that one will get attached down. And so if this wasn't a pocket, all the centers of those flowers would have a French knot on them. But it's a pocket, so I can't. I mean, I could lift it up and still do the French knots on there before I attach the other part down, which I might end up doing now that I saw that. But we'll go ahead and we will take our green just as a refresher for the French knots. And we will put a few French knots on that one. And it will be, this one's held down now with the button. That's held down with a little bit of stitching that I did on it. So I know it's not going to be flopping around. So we'll do a few of the French knots on the green one. And we don't have to worry about it flopping around. We'll have everything steady and down to the base, so I don't have to worry about things falling off or moving around while I'm working. So I'm going to start in the middle with the dot right there. View. And I'm going to do a double wrap on the French knots. And just hold that taut over to the side. with your finger, and you don't let go until it is at the end and pulls out of there. And that's how you end up with a very, very nice French knot. Just work our way around from that one. You don't go exactly in the same spot that you came up with your needle, but very, very close next to it. All of these, obviously, that would take a little while. We'll do a few of them. And you see where this is going to be over the top of that. I'm not going to do French knots on that portion, so I'll keep checking that. There's no sense in doing them where they're not going to show. Yeah. There are some people that just do not like doing French knots. I find them very, very easy to do and don't have to think about them at all. So I enjoy doing French. Catch that thread over there and get that in there. That is how I will end up doing that little square. Okay, that there, and we're going to see what gone over that, sewing our buttons down. That one goes up there, sticking out like that. that. That fell off, which if it didn't take so long to get the glue to come out right there, I'd put that back on, but I won't lose that button. I'll be working on it and have it right there. But let's go back to our other portion here, because I need to decide what I'm going to do to attach that down, and I'm not for certain on that yet. I think what I'm going to do is some seed stitching. I don't have the right color floss out for that right now. Of course, I only have white and I don't want to use the white. I don't want to use white on that. Wasn't prepared, but that is what I will probably do on the background of that. I will put seed stitching in and it'll make part of this design pop out more, and it'll give that a whole lot of dimension on there. But that's what I am probably going to do with that. This down here, I'm going to do just straight line cantha stitching through that with this yellow variegated Valdani Pearl Cotton. Size 12 again is what I'm using on this project. And I put my needle over here, didn't I? Oh, unthread that, leave the thread there. Okay. Oops, can't see that I was showing down there. The yellow with the cherries. That on there. And we'll probably go both directions, vertically and horizontally on that to give it dimension. start up from the bottom here and in, because it will have the blanket stitching on the bottom there. I'm just going to eyeball it. We don't have to do a small stitch because Canta doesn't use a small. It uses about the same as how we do the stitch for a quandi. And if I don't go exactly straight, that's okay too. I'll just try to keep it as even and straight as I can. It all comes with practice and everything over time. If you're new and you want to mark your lines like I did on the part that I wanted to keep it a little bit more precise, you can, until you get used to being able to eyeball and judge that more on your own. And if you can take advantage of a fabric that already has lines in it, or a plaid on the back or something that you can follow the lines, that's always helpful too. I'm dropping just a little here, so I'm gonna dust on the back end, get back up to the height that I want to be. Never noticed that. Caught it in time. Oops, sorry. Got out of the camera view there. Gotta move up. Here we go. Sorry about that. I need to leave the room for the blanket stitch on that side as well. I don't want to go too far to this edge either. Out there. Just going to turn to the distance I want my row apart, turn it around, and come back the other direction. We'll do that continuously on this portion until I get right up below that lace. When I have all my lines going this way, I will turn and I will go kind of in between them, and I will also do them vertically then on that portion. So that is what I will be doing on that. And then I will be doing some of the Canta stitching in the background here also, using the turquoise thread is what the plan is for now. That doesn't mean I won't change that idea, but I think that's how I will go with that. So there we have what was supposed to be just a simple birthday card, starting with this, turning into this beautiful needle book instead. We'll flip this. Oops, I'm forgetting that button came off there. Flip this back over so that we can lay our layers like they would be. Fold it up. And I'm going to zoom this back out so that you can see better again. But there we have the cover. Inside, all that work done on there, and we will probably be doing some seed stitching in the background on this also, so that's not all plain. Or who knows, we might do some decorative embroidery stitches on there. Haven't decided for sure yet. There may be a part 2 of this when I do some of the rest of the stitching to show you, or in a week in review. Hopefully I'll get one of those done on Sunday or Monday for you. And show you some of the other things that have been stitched in the cottage since the last video. That's the inside, and then of course we have the back of it as well. But so I hope that you have enjoyed. Try and come back to the regular camera here. And of course we have to reset it. Sorry about that. There we go. But I hope that you have enjoyed following along, seeing some of the work on this beautiful, what is going to be a beautiful and very useful needle book for the recipient of this not so simple anymore birthday card that is going in with a package that is being sent also with some sewing supplies in it. So thank you for joining me for this. I don't know when I will be doing another video, but when I do, just make sure that you're subscribed if you like what you see and what I do. I also do quilting. You can see the quilt behind me there, part of a double wedding ring going on the design wall there. But if you enjoy watching what it is that I do and share, please, if you're not subscribed, go ahead, hit that subscribe button, ring the bell so that you will get notifications of when I do go live or drop new videos so you can follow along, and go ahead and share it with your friends. Thank you. Until next time, remember, I can keep you in stitches. Bye-bye.